And we go north to Scotland, to a community fighting to save their one-room school and their village.
People with young families certainly won't come and stay here if there's no school.
And they can't afford $20,000 a year for our school. It's absolutely ludicrous.
Welcome back. One might be forgiven for believing that there's an election on the way. I think it's got something to do with a new elasticity in government policies. Take small village primary schools. Only last year, Education Minister Kenneth Baker said that many would have to go in order to save money. But today, the Department of Education relented, announcing that arguments other than cost effectiveness would be now taken into account. Good news, maybe, for England and Wales, but it doesn't affect Scotland and villages like Ardentinny in Argyllshire, where the 23-pupil primary school is threatened with closure. Typically, the people of Ardentinny aren't taking this lying down. They've brought to the administrative heart of Glasgow itself their battle cry, "Save our school." In tonight's film, we look at what it is they want to save.
He was very fine indeed, and he was made of chocolate, from his tail right up to his long ears. And suddenly, splash, he fell into the pond. He struggled out, and he landed right on top of Mrs. Pooh. And all there was left was a little pool of brown chocolate in the ground, along with a little black cat called Mrs. Pooh.
Okay, it's too much. I give it nice.
And I want them to be able to go out from here knowing right from wrong.
He's a great big hugger, this boy is.
And if they don't learn that here in this small setup, they'll never learn it anywhere.
Matthew.
I want them to be able to cope to the best of their abilities with all the problems that will beset them, even in their early years.
How do we know that? The red arrow is pointing.
I want them to be able to overcome their problems and to be able to use their initiative.
Show me a tool. Good.
At Ardentinny, we have a school which we consider is second to none. The school teacher is but the best. My daughter, who's now aged 8, has, to my view, a reading capacity that I only achieved at a larger state school when I was 11.
It's just like a big family. The children learn to look after each other. Their social values are just great. I mean, the big ones look after the little ones. They're socially, they learn to tolerate each other because they're in a small classroom, which we all appreciate, but they tolerate each other in it and they help each other in it.
Wait a minute.
The children love being at this school. My 2 children don't like holidays, and even Saturdays is a drag when they suddenly discover there's no school.
On the shore of a Scottish loch, Ardentinny village in Argyllshire has its pride and joy. One teacher school. For 100 years, the village children have been coming here. From 4-year-olds to 11-year-olds, they're taught in the same room by the same teacher. In September last year, the local education authority for Strathclyde decided it was going to close down Ardentinny School and bus the 20 or so children over 5 miles away to a bigger school in the neighbouring village of Strone. The first to hear the news was Ardentinny's teacher for the last 17 years, Kathleen Robertson.
So I just said, oh gosh, you're closing me in June. I thought you only did that with schools of small numbers. No, he said, it's policy, you know. He said, we've got a big modern school, he said, down the road there with an empty classroom. And I think the children will be better suited there. Do you think there'll be trouble? I said, I think there might be.
It's very, very important that we make a good show on the set and show them that we're really making business. Where are we going? And what are we going to tell them when we get there? Save Ardentinny School, hands off our school and hands off our village. What are you going to tell them? Save our school! Save our school! Save our school! Save our school! Save our school!
When I heard this school was to be considered for closure, I was absolutely horrified. I cannot put that too much. The village is absolutely unanimous. Everyone is so hopping mad that unity within the village has never been like it before.
It's really annoying when somebody up in Glasgow can turn round and say, want to close down Ardentinny School, and I've never ever been down here or seen it or seen how happy the kids are, and we're not prepared to let it go at that.
You feel as if you're bashing your head against a brick wall because there's people a long way away from the village that aren't looking at it from our point of view, that are just looking at it from the distance of Glasgow and are not looking at the real problems in a village.
Very annoyed to think that they can just take a pencil and sort of score through the name Ardentinny School and that's the end of it.
It's going to affect parents of future children. I wouldn't have come here if there hadn't been a school to send my children to. Without the school, we won't get young families, and if we don't get young families, the whole village is going to die.
The decision to make this proposal was occasioned by the fact that there is enough room in the school which we propose should be the receiving school for both the previous catchment areas. There was enough room and a belief, a general belief, that provided the travelling distances are not so great as to cause serious inconvenience, it is better for pupils to be educated in the larger environment than in a very small environment.
I mean, small is good, and that is being found out in lots of countries. And some countries are actually building small schools now on purpose because they've realised that small is good. And I think the only reason can be money. The reason it all comes down to, I think, is that they're wanting to save a few £1,000s.
Of course, there is a financial aspect to it too, in that if you save money on buildings, then that money is available for spending elsewhere in the education budget.
If they put a lot of little schools together, they think they're going to save some money. But it makes me very angry because we're talking here about a school that costs about $20,000 a year to run. Now, over there is the COULPORT base. It's going to be the new Trident base. It now has Polaris missiles for the defence of our country, the deterrent. They're spending about £20 billion on it, and they can't afford $20,000 a year for our school. It's absolutely ludicrous.
My whole life, really, has been this school and making it what it is. I've put every talent that I've got, just everything about the place has suited my character, just put it like that, suited my personality. Everything is special about it to me because it's been my school. It's been a very funny life, really. I knew from the age of 11 that I wanted to be a teacher. And it was a very strong conviction in my mind. One grows up, goes to university, college, the lot, and enjoys the life of it. Super. And I did meet a very nice person, a musician. I shouldn't really be giving you my love story here, my life story. And anyway, I was going to marry this chap, but he took lung cancer and died. And we were engaged to be married. And I never really found anybody that I liked as much later on. And I never had children, obviously, of my own. But I think you're always recompensed because I've had such fun with these ones, you know. And obviously, it's been a much closer relationship than it would have been in the bigger school situation. There's no doubt about it.
That's the one there, right? Tim, I found a better place than that. Oh, Fiona, we can't keep shaking in the fire. Well, that's good.
I would think possibly in the light of all that I know now that this has been the right step for me. I've just enjoyed every minute of it.
Right, just where your sticks on, that'll do, that's fine. I think don't forget these are...
I'm very fond of children, you see.
I was saying go down there, go down there. The boy said no, the fire's already
you come up out there then, right? No one to get your eyes on screen up.
Okay, Daddy. Oh, you can't expect him to say clean like you're doing your mum's cooker.
You put the sausage and put it in. They're good.
Yeah. Have yours got them off?
Better than the ones at home. I should think so.
Alright,
no, I'll take this. Good job.
Say it drinking wood.
I have children here who really need specialised kind of teaching that I've been able to offer. And the mind boggles a bit. I shudder when I think of the situation of these little children going into a larger unit. Even the thought of it closing has caused a tremendous amount of distress and upset and ill-feeling. I don't really know. I think in many cases it will cause despair.
The villagers were given their say by the Education Authority. There was one evening meeting to discuss a consultation document that listed the council's reasons for shutting down the school.
It was anything but a consultation document. It had so many inaccuracies in it, which would have been quite clear to anyone who had bothered to visit the school in the first place, but one cannot understand how they occurred. The school premises were misdescribed as being poorer than they actually are. The school roll projection figures given were wholly inaccurate, and the report contained so many biased statements of personal opinion that it was not a fair consultative document. It is my own personal belief that whatever reason they may put forward for closing the school, The real incentive for closure is administrative convenience.
I feel that they were giving us great blanket statements about reasons, just taking them out of the air without any evidence at all. They said the children were educationally disadvantaged at Ardentinny School, but they've presented no evidence at all, no inspectors' reports or attainment tests or anything of that kind.
Ardentinny is very cramped. There's no question about that. It's very cramped. And of course, since the roll has been swollen by, I think it's 5 pupils exceptionally admitted from out with the catchment area, it's getting towards its capacity, which is only about 26. And they're having to use the lobby entrance to the school for music practice and so on, in a way that is, as a long-term feature anyway, undesirable if you can do it better. There's a lack of specialist provision, of course. If you've got to use all your space for teaching, you haven't got anywhere else internally that you can go to for PE, for example.
I don't think facilities ever make a school. I think it's, first of all, the staff who are running the school who make the school, because they give the lead and the children pick up from there. No, I don't think facilities at all make a school. It's the quality of teaching that's in it that makes it.
All right, Marion, we got there.
2. So I think it's just the very atmosphere of the place that one would hope that they'll be able to go out into the world and cope with everything and be the kind of people I would hope that they will be.
See, you're not really all that tired. Come on, 2. Just the 2 wheels. That would be lovely. Now, Jonathan.
What do the children think of you?
I'm the ogre of their lives. I'm the ogre, the very ogre of their being. They've to come in here, they're to be faced with me every day of, say, 5, 7 years of their life, an awfully long time. So we have to have a happy sort of relationship. Otherwise it could be sheer hell, couldn't it, for both of us?
Why are you going at that time of the year?
I can get it from the hot places in there.
You think it'll be warmer there at that time?
Yeah, she's stricter than the other ones because they were all soft, and when you got something wrong, they just left it wrong in the shots and explains it to you and helps you on.
I like her as well. She is stricter than the other teachers, but
mountaineering.
I think she explains the things to you if you get stuck.
So you have breakfast and an evening meal, right?
I don't really like bigger schools because the teacher doesn't really get a chance to come round to you that many times.
I like the music very much. Before I came here, I couldn't play a note of music and I couldn't read music, and now I play the flute.
As the villagers would see it, is that their school is performing a perfectly good job. Why close it?
Well, have you ever come across a community in which the parents, when faced with the possibility of their school closing, have said, we agree that the school is doing a poor job in the community and we want to see it closed? I've never come across a situation like that. I don't think there's any way in which we could be criticized credibly for not having listened to any point of view that was relevant, that came from the local community or any of those affected.
I'm sure they've done all the correct things, but I just don't think they've listened to us at all. I mean, they're supposed to be there to sort of, for our wishes to do what we want, but they're doing the absolute opposite if they go ahead with this. It's a very, very different way of life. The children have very different interests. For instance, my children are interested in their animals, ponies, etc. They wouldn't have time to do that in the evenings had they to travel from Strone. I mean, their whole education is built up of school education and education out with the school. They're just totally unaware of what it's like to live in a community like this and what the school does for the community. It will just become a geriatric population eventually, because People with young families certainly won't come and stay here if there's no school.
I've loved it, every minute of it. It's been the most exciting experiment of my life. I've loved the place, I've loved the children, and the people have been terrific.
We are going to fight to the bitter end because we're so determined to save the school and in so doing saving the village.
It's the heart of the village, your school, and when that goes, everything else goes with it.
Since that film was made, some good news. Strathclyde Education Authority has announced that Ardentinny School will be allowed to stay open for another year while a new consultation procedure is worked out. We'll be back on the first Tuesday in June. Until then.